Hi everybody, this is Tolki for an itemization video focusing on critical builds. By critical builds, I mean every item that gives you critical hits, and that's mostly marksman builds, as well as Yasuo and Yuni's build. Marksman mythics have three very clear use cases. So first, when you're going for the mythic, you're going to get an Unquiver on the way. It's a good item, good power spike, not huge, but it's pretty good. You have three very, very clear options for mythics. You have Kraken Slayer, Gale Force, and Immortal Shieldbow. Kraken Slayer is by far, it's not even comparable, the best DPS option. It's about 50% better than other options at raw DPS, and its flat true damage is also very good against squishes. So it's just a good item. It gives you more AD than the others. It gives you more damage on your auto attacks. So if you can make use of it, if you can attack people with a Kraken Slayer, you should get it. That's it, end of story. The other two are for, of course, survivability. So talking about Gale Force versus Immortal Shieldbow. Immortal Shieldbow and Gale Force give you the same baseline stats. Shieldbow gives you 10% lifesteal instead of 10% 10 AD, which is roughly the same. And the question is, which one will save your ass? If you are against a team with a lot of long-range engage, for example, Leona or Hooks, Thresh, or even against a Gragas, you likely want Gale Force, because if you get hit by those spells, even if you have a Shieldbow, you're likely ending up dead, so there's no point in getting a Shieldbow. On the other hand, if the reason why you need survivability is because you get close and dirty, then Shieldbow is a good item. So of course you have the Yasuo bros, but you also have Kai'Sa, which wants to dive, sometimes aggressively, to pick up people. Here, Shieldbow can give you a lot of value. If you think you're going to fight somebody 1v1 to the death, it's good. Champions like Draven, who can also try and go for that, those kind of play, can be good users of Shieldbow. But overall, Shieldbow is not good if you're not activating the shield, because that's where the value comes from. It gives you a lot of HP, a lot of AD, and that's where the value lies. And you have to think about how the fights will play out, how you will use your character, and if you're going to proc the shield or not. And if proccing the shield does not mean you're dead instantly. So I feel like Shieldbow is the most niche option out of all three, but it still has its place. But the important thing is, do not forget that Kraken Slayer is insane efficiency. Also, the AD mythics are very good. The crit mythics are very good, so you should most likely rush them, except if you get a zeal. So zeal is crazy stats for 1050 gold. It's as much move speed as base boots, because it's 7% move speed, and most ADs have about 340 default. So it's also 20 move speed, just like base boots, while giving you the crit of a cloak and the attack speed of 1.5 daggers. So you are getting brown boots for free when you buy a zeal. It's very, very strong, and it's something you can dip into before finishing your mythic. If, for example, you get Noon Quiver and zeal, and maybe base boots, but you're not even forced to go that, you will be very strong. Noon Quiver plus zeal before finishing your mythic is a very valuable path, and think about it. Talking about the zeal option then. Rapid Fire Cannon, it's sort of my personal crusade, but it's kind of trash. It's not awful if you assume you're using it mostly for poke, and you're using the proc once every 3 hits on champions, which is very generous. You get to 113% gold efficiency, but compared to how often it's built, it's not as good as people think. It can be an okay option when you're really getting a lot of value out of the extra range, but even then, most champions will heal out of it, and your extra proc does not really get you anywhere. On the other hand, Mortal Reminder is the opposite. It's very good raw stats. It has AD, AS, crit, and move speed, and Grievous Wounds, so it's a bit of everything an AD carry wants, and I think it's overall the best cheap second item for an AD. If you really want to be going for an Infinity Edge as the third item, Mortal Reminder is a good stopgap, especially if you make good use of the Grievous Wounds, because that's where a lot of the value comes from. So if you're against a Mundo, a Soraka, Vladimir, any other bullshit, you can get an early Mortal Reminder. It's a good early item. It's a good second item. It goes very well with the crit mythics because it gives you crit, AD, and attack speed in a good mixture. So don't spit on Mortal Reminder. I think it's a good reminder for everybody. Talking about the Phantom Dancer. Phantom Dancer unstacked is terrible, stacked is insane. 30% attack speed is a lot of gold, it turns out. The thing is, you need to have a champion that can reliably stack it and will be able to continue attacking once it's stacked, and there are not a lot of champions able to do that. I think Kindred, for example, is one of the exceptions because she has a long range, she has an auto attack reset, and she's very hard to kill because of her ultimate. She will land 4 auto attacks and continue attacking for a little bit afterwards, and that's, one of the use cases, but you really have to be able to make use of the stack to get it. If you can make use of the stack and you want the AS, this item is bonkers, but it's a bit harder to use than a Mortal Reminder, for example. Finally, in the Zeal items, you have the Rune's Hurricane, which is very, very skewed. If you're hitting 2 people, it's the best item in the game. If you're hitting 1, it's shit. So it really depends on the team composition. If your opponents have, I don't know, a big front line with a Scion, which will come in range of you, they have, I don't know, they play Nunu jungle for some reason, then Rune's Hurricane is very good. And Leona support, Rune's Hurricane is insane. If you're hitting 2 or 3 targets on most of your autos, the secondary hit is crazy. It's 40% AD with crit scaling applying on hit effects. It's a half auto attack on the secondary target. But outside of this, it's very, very bad. So Rune's Hurricane depends a lot on whether or not you're actually going to make use of this. It also means this is not an auto-include in on-hit builds because the Rostat themselves are not good enough to include in on-hit builds, and you should likely just be going for a Phantom Dancer on most on-hit builds. Talking about on-hit builds, we have Ginsu's Rageblade, which is actually much better than most people think. If you don't have innate critical scaling, so if you don't have spells that actually scale with crits, and you're okay going to 0% crit, it is one of the best items at increasing your auto-attack damage output. It's as simple as this. You will shred through people with auto-attacks because the additional on-hit damage is very big. With your Mythic and your Ginsu's Rageblade, you get 80 on-hit physical damage, and even counting that as 40 AD equivalent, to make it fair, that's how we count on-hit damage in terms of gold efficiency, it's still a lot, and it's going to scale up with more critical items. So if you have any good on-hit item and you want the huge attack speed of Ginsu's Rageblade, if you have more abilities on hit, then this is a very, very good item that I think is being a bit slept on in terms of how much damage output it gives you. Looking at the next option, so they're also sorted by cost. Stormrazor, not good. It's just not very good at the moment because the damage buff you get is measly, the slow is very short, and if you want, AD, attack speed, and crit, you should be going for Mortal Reminder, Phantom Dancer, Rune's Hurricane, and not Stormrazor. If you want a mixture of the stats, Mortal Reminder is much better than Stormrazor in almost all situations. Moving forward, Essence River. So here I'm taking the Sheen as gold efficiency. And this means Essence River is good if you're making heavy use of Sheen, which is once again very few champions. You have to want crit and AD and ability haste and make good use of the proc, which is very few champions. Maybe Lucian could be good. Kindred, once again, I'm a Kindred one trick. Graves, of course, Corki Ezreal can make decent use of it, even though it's not perfect. So it's a weird item where if you're making full use of its passive, it's great. If you're not, it's not that good. So it's really up to the passive usage. If you are a good user of the passive, it can be a good second item. Moving forward, Miracle Scimitar is just a slot efficient upgrade of QSS, but it doesn't give you any extra stats, so only upgrade it as a last resort. You should not have a Miracle Scimitar before it's your 5th item. And moving to Lord Dominic's Regard. Lord Dominic's Regard is not good early. It's not good on 2 items. There is rarely a situation on 2 items where it is worth it, because you're going to need a big HP difference and a big armor on the target to just break even. it does scale pretty well to against super tanks in the late game, but on 2 items it's not super good. It's a good 3rd or 4th item when you really want it, but it's definitely not an item that makes sense as a 2nd item, I think. Looking at Navori Quick Blades. Navori Quick Blades is gold efficient. It's okay, but the passive is hard to get value out of, and this was not sorted by gold cost. My bad. And since it's hard to get value out of the passive, it's just a good baseline item if you want those exact stats. I think it's a good 4th item for row DPS for champions that have abilities that they want to never be on cooldown, aka Tristana. If you're Tristana and you really want to always have Q up, Quick Blades is a good 3rd or 4th item. Moving to Bloodthirster, it's just bad right now. Even if we assume that the shield is always on and it's your actual HP, it's not good. It's just not worth it. Bloodthirster should almost never be bought in its current situation. I think they would need to add something like at least 10 AD to it for it to be appealing at this cost, which is 3,400 gold. That's a lot. And then looking at the last 2 items of this list, this was much longer than I expected. The Collector is actually a good item. I hate to say it, but it's good. Getting lethality early is pretty strong because if you hit squishy targets, you get a lot of reward from it, and there are lots of squishy targets in the game, at least 2 per game usually. The passive is okay, but that's not why you buy the item. Why you buy the item is because it gives you 55 AD, and 55 AD is a lot. It goes well in most crit builds, and the 12 lethality is nothing to scoff at. It's quite a bit of value if you properly weigh lethality at its gold cost, which is about 50 gold per point of lethality, and not 10 like you might have seen it somewhere. Finally, closing it out, Infinity Edge without 60% crit is absolute trash, never buy it. Once you have it, it's okay. It's not an insane spike on the 3rd item. It's more when you get to the 4th and 5th item, when you get to 80% or 100% crit, then the increased crit damage really comes online. On 3 items, it's actually not that good. I expected it to be better, but it only increases your crit damage by 20%. Since you're at 60% crit, you're only critting 3 autos out of 5, so in the end you only get a 12% total damage increase, which is not much. Like, it's not that much what you get from the passive. You really need to be getting to 80, 100 crit to get value out of the Infinity Edge. So this was 6 minutes longer than I thought it would be. I wanted to be short. I was not. I did go over all marksman items. I did not talk about Guardian Angel, but Guardian Angel is good if the passive saves your ass. It's bad if it's not. Just like all of those big passive items, and Guardian Angel is a very polarized example of that. So that will be all for me. Thanks a lot if you've tuned into the whole video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that shit, and see you tomorrow, and we'll be talking mage items. Have a good day.